9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, everybody. How's it going? For a portion of this stream, you're not going to see me because I do this magic trick in the sunlight and become translucent. I don't have a curtain on the window that is behind my monitors because I have a standing freezer and a refrigerator nice and snug up to my table. So just to deal with my hook nose being like gone and then it's there and then it's gone. I will try to avoid the sunlight as much as possible. It's kind of like a life goal of mine, being Irish and burning all the time the moment I step out into the sun. But welcome to Cooking the Books, where I take that book list collecting dust in the corner and read it to you so you don't have to. I missed you guys. It's been 2 weeks. It's kind of weird. If I sit back, you can see me, sort of. So, yeah. How's everybody doing? You excited for Jurassic Park? I don't know if YouTube's going to get all pissy at me for reading it for copyright reasons or whatever. So we'll see. If it does drop, I am live on Rumble, green-haired anti-liberal with hyphens in the name. Just in case, I shall do the thing and drop it in chat. So there's that. And what else? Stream Elements is pinned at the top of the chat in Rumble and YouTube. So there's that. Sit back. I can do this. Y'all can see me. It's fine. Good. It'll go away shortly, maybe in like an hour, I think. I don't know. It might get worse in an hour, actually. We'll see. It was raining earlier, so I was hoping the cloud coverage would help. But see, I disappear. Then I reappear. Disappear. It's like a game. What else? So yeah, I have those pinned. Oh, there is a poll in chat to see what everybody thinks it's gonna drop or not. So do the poll if you'd like. Phrasing. Whatever. But yeah, let me say hi to chat. Welcome everybody in. Hello, hello. Hopefully you can hear me. Okay, let's see. Legatus, hello. I said hello to you earlier, but I will say hello again for an official hello and welcome. Everybody seems to be excited for the dinos. I shouldn't be surprised at this. Yeah, I saw this earlier. Oh, not the mama, not the mama. Still the wrong one. There it is. Not quite barbecuing, but that's a form of cooking. So if that's what you prefer. Larry, hello. Welcome. And James, hello. How are you? Legatus is always causing trouble, but I'm okay with it. What's up, Dom? Hello. I would say no, we should be good, but you think I'm a jinx, so you probably don't want me saying that. I don't know. Would you be a jinx in this scenario? I mean, I feel like you're a jinx to yourself in any scenario, so high static. And like I said, dinosaurs, and everybody's excited. I mean, don't get me wrong. I even have my Jurassic Park t-shirt on, trying to give you the best view. Damn, the sun. It's ridiculous. You can see the shirt. You get it. And yes, unfortunately, it is a Loot Crate shirt, so I'm sure at least half of you, if not more of you, also have the same shirt. So, what's up, Kratos? Crime perfectly blends real science history with science fiction. Great example in the introduction chapter. Well, we will get to it. And I'll show you the book that I got, because it's apparently different than the one that Dom ordered, but he ordered the same set from Amazon, so. C'est la vie. What's up, Sam? Hello. Are you as excited because there's dinosaurs? Everybody's excited. And yes, the bright light. It disappeared. Ooh. I'm a wizard. Causing trouble like we do. I'm sorry you're dealing with sinuses. Mine just got over it because spring started, which don't even try to figure out why I have allergies pre-spring and then spring comes. It's retarded. I mean, you're going to be here to help me, right, Sam? With the vocabulary, if it's so hard. I know there's a lot of Gattaca, so I did take a peek because I've decided to look at them before doing it. So if you noticed, this is entitled with iterations. So I'm going to try to do one iteration per stream, except for the first two are shorter. So we'll see how that goes. I might stop halfway through. And some of the chapters are super short. So I'm going to play it by ear on how I do the chapter breaks. That's hilarious. Looks like it's still working. Hopefully it came back up for you, Legatus. What's up, Kel? You are late, but it's okay. I forgive you. Oh, duly noted. That'd be gay. But if they do, guess y'all have to follow me on Rumble. Not quite how it's spelled, but it's an interesting attempt. You could have just said La Vie for the joke, though. Hi, Clinton. How's it going? The sun is driving me crazy. How many pages? Let's take a gander. Now, there are a bunch of different charts and things on these pages. So, even if the iteration seems long, a lot of the pages are taken up by things that I'm just going to show you and move on. After a brief description, 458 pages. So starting at iteration 3, it's about 100 pages per iteration. So the font and spacing make it seem like it might be shorter to read. So don't be intimidated. God, I'm just going to be moving around all stream. Hopefully you can hear me. That's all you need, right? Oh no, I'm not reading the second book. Kind of sense does that make? I have read the fourth book in a series, but they're standalone books, part of like a whole picture. So it doesn't give anything away in the previous book. So once I finished that one and realized, I just went back to the first one, and I didn't have much information from it, so it didn't spoil anything really. Yes. That's what I plan on doing for all of the diagrams and charts, etc., like the Gattaca and all that stuff, the DNA patterns and whatnot. I will show it to you as I'm reading through them. Oh, that's sad to hear. Hopefully the stream at least stays up and you can watch it on YouTube. That sucks, though. I hope they fix it soon. Thank you, Sam, the dictionary. I guess that comes with being aged, huh? You learn a bunch of different languages and spellings for things. All right, so I'm going to show you the big reveal of the book because it's different than Dom's. If y'all can see it, hopefully. See? And. So, like, it's not the normal. So, it's not. I got. So that's the second one, obviously, Lost World. And this is the first one. When I went to buy them, the first one looks very similar to, I think, what it originally looked like. But this is a whatever edition. It doesn't even say that it's like a special edition or anything. But either way, I found it funny because it's green. See, there's green. It's like a greenish blue, a teal. But like on camera, it looks way more blue. But in person, it's green. And I found that to be wonderful coincidence. Yeah. So I was excited for that. That's kind of why I did my thumbnail the way I did. So it has like this little guy there. Yeah. And it's kind of green. And it was just an image that I found online. So it worked out nicely. Oh, my Lord. Just going to chill over here for a bit. Nah. Aw, that's sweet. Over the bros. Shooting from the, or what is it? From the hip? I always put shooting in front of that. Lost World is the same as mine. Yeah, I thought it was when you sent me the photo. I like my cover better too, but obviously I would when it's green. I mean, that's just a given. All right. So there is an introduction and a prologue. So forgive me, I do not currently have an introduction break. So I'm just going to do the prologue, and I will read both of them back to back because the intro is pretty short. Okay? And the prologue's not all that long either. So let's get to it. Oh, my Lord. Just scoot back and reach like this. You would think it looks blue. It's not blue. My shirt is blue. Whatever. Aw. You guys seem happy that I'm reading this. I wonder why. Boys and their dinosaurs. What am I doing? I feel like I haven't been here in for freaking ever. All right, here we go. Jurassic Park. Introduction. Do you want to hear? Do you want to hear a quote? Okay, I'm going to do a couple of quotes. Reptiles are abhorrent because of their cold body, pale color, cartilaginous skeleton, filthy skin, fierce aspect, calculating eye, offensive smell, harsh voice, squalid habitation, and terrible venom. Wherefore their creator has not exerted his power to make many of them. Linnaeus, 1797. No idea if I pronounced that correctly. And then Erwin Chargaff, 1972. You cannot recall a new form of life. Now to the introduction. The InGen incident. The late 20th century has witnessed a scientific gold rush of astonishing proportions, the headlong and furious haste to commercialize genetic engineering. This enterprise has proceeded so rapidly, with so little outside commentary, that its dimensions and implications are hardly understood at all. Biotechnology promises the greatest revolution in human history. By the end of this decade, it will have outdistanced atomic power and computers in its effect on our everyday lives. In the words of one observer, biotechnology is going to transform every aspect of human life: our medical care, our food, our health, our entertainment, our very bodies. Nothing will ever be the same again. It's literally going to change the face of the planet. But the biotechnology revolution differs in three important aspects from past scientific transformations. First, it is broad-based. America entered the atomic age through the work of a single research institution at Los Alamos. It entered the computer age through the efforts of about a dozen companies, but biotechnology research is now carried out in more than 2,000 laboratories in America alone. 500 corporations spend $5 billion a year on this technology. Second, much of the research is thoughtless or frivolous. Efforts to engineer paler trout for better visibility in the stream, square trees for easier lumbering, and injectable scent cells so you'll always smell of your favorite perfume may seem like a joke, but they are not. Indeed, the fact that biotechnology can be applied to the industries traditionally subject to the vagaries of fashion, such as cosmetics and leisure activities, heightens concern about the whimsical use of this powerful new technology. Third, the work is uncontrolled. No one supervises it. No federal laws regulate it. There is no coherent government policy in America or anywhere else in the world. And because the products of biotechnology range from drugs to farm crops to artificial snow, an intelligent policy is difficult. But most disturbing is the fact that no watchdogs are found among scientists themselves. It is remarkable that nearly every scientist in genetics research is also engaged in the commerce of biotechnology. There are no detached observers. Everybody has a stake. I feel like this mirrors our current problems with certain technologies. The commercialization of molecular biology is the most stunning ethical event in the history of science, and it has happened with astonishing speed. For 400 years since Galileo, science has always proceeded as a free and open inquiry into the workings of nature. Scientists have always ignored national boundaries, holding themselves above the transitory concerns of politics and even wars. Scientists have always rebelled against secrecy in research and have even frowned on the idea of patenting their discoveries, seeing themselves as working to the benefit of all mankind. And for many generations, the discoveries of scientists did indeed have a peculiarly selfless quality. When, in 1953, two young researchers in England, James Watson and Francis Crick, deciphered the structure of DNA, their work was hailed as a triumph of the human spirit, of the centuries-old quest to understand the universe in a scientific way. It was confidently expected that their discovery would be selflessly extended to the greater benefit of mankind. Yet that did not happen. 30 years later, nearly all of Watson and Crick's scientific colleagues were engaged in another sort of enterprise entirely. Research in molecular genetics had become a vast, multi-billion-dollar commercial undertaking, and its origins can be traced not to 1953, but to April 1976. That was the date of a now famous meeting in which Robert Swanson, a venture capitalist, approached Herbert Boyer, a biochemist at the University of California. The two men agreed to found a commercial company to exploit Boyer's gene splicing techniques. Really? Did you want to read, or did you just want to eat the book? Say hi to Snow, everybody. At least you can see him. Seriously? You're a pain in the butt. Their new company, Genentech, quickly became the largest and most successful of the genetic engineering startups. I think I skipped a sentence. The two men agreed to found a commercial company to exploit Boyer's gene splicing techniques. Their new company, Genentech, quickly became the largest and most successful of the genetic engineering startups. Suddenly, it seemed as if everyone wanted to become rich. New companies were announced almost weekly, and scientists flocked to exploit genetic research. By 1986, at least 362 scientists, including 64 in the National Academy, sat on the advisory boards of biotech firms. The number of those who held equity positions or consultancies was several times greater. It is necessary to emphasize how significant this shift in attitude actually was. In the past, pure scientists took a snobbish view of business. They saw the pursuit of money as intellectually uninteresting, suited only to shopkeepers. And to do research for industry, even at the prestigious Bell or IBM labs, was only for those who couldn't get a university appointment. Thus, the attitude of pure scientists was fundamentally critical toward the work of applied scientists and to industry in general. Their long-standing antagonism kept university scientists free of contaminating industry ties, and whenever debate arose about technological matters, disinterested scientists were available to discuss the issues at the highest levels. But that is no longer true. There are very few molecular biologists and very few research institutions without commercial affiliations. The old days are gone. Genetic research continues at a more furious pace than ever, but it is done in secret and in haste and for profit. You're making my life difficult, dude. In this commercial climate, it is probably inevitable that a company as ambitious as International Genetic Technologies, Inc., of Palo Alto would arise. It is equally unsurprising that the genetic crisis it created should go unreported. After all, InGen's research was conducted in secret. The actual incident occurred in the most remote region of Central America, and fewer than 20 people were there to witness it. Of those, only a handful survived. Even at the end, when International Genetic Technologies filed for Chapter 11 protection in San Francisco Superior Court on October 5th, 1989, the proceedings drew little press attention. It appeared so ordinary. InGen was the third small American bioengineering company to fail that year, and the seventh since 1986. Few court documents were made public since the creditors were Japanese investment consortia such as Hamaguri and Densaka, companies which traditionally shun publicity. To avoid unnecessary disclosure, Daniel Ross of Cowen, Swain and Ross, counsel for InGen, also represented the Japanese investors. And the rather unusual petition of the vice consul of Costa Rica was heard behind closed doors. Thus, it is not surprising that, within a month, the problems of InGen were quietly and amicably settled. Parties to that settlement, including the Distinguished Scientific Board of Advisors, signed a non-disclosure agreement, and none will speak about what happened. But many of the principal figures in the InGen incident are not signatories and were willing to discuss the remarkable events leading up to those final 2 days in August 1989. That's a good month and year for reasons. On a remote island off the west coast of Costa Rica. Prologue, The Bite of the Raptor. The tropical rain fell in drenching sheets, hammering the corrugated roof of the clinic building, roaring down the metal gutters, splashing on the ground in a torrent. Roberta Carter sighed and stared out the window. From the clinic, she could hardly see the beach or the ocean beyond, cloaked in a low fog. This wasn't what she had expected when she had come to the fishing village of Bahia Anasco, on the west coast of Costa Rica, to spend 2 months as a visiting physician. Bobby Carter had expected sun and relaxation after 2 grueling years of residency in emergency medicine at Michael Reese in Chicago. She had been in Bahia on Anasco now for 3 weeks, and it had rained every day. Everything else was fine. She liked the isolation of Bahia and Nosco and the friendliness of its people. And also, the rain in Costa Rica is very pleasant. Just saying. Costa Rica had one of the 20 best medical systems in the world, and even in this remote coastal village, the clinic was well maintained, amply supplied. Her paramedic, Manuel Aragon, was intelligent and well trained. Bobby was able to practice a level of medicine equal to what she had practiced in Chicago. But the rain, the constant, unending rain, constant and unending, I can understand her ire towards. Across the examining room, Manuel cocked his head. Listen, he said. Believe me, I hear it, Bobby said. No, listen. And then she caught it. Another sound blended with the rain. A deeper rumble that built and emerged until it was clear. The rhythmic thumping of a helicopter. She thought, they can't be flying in weather like this. But the sound built steadily, and then the helicopter burst low through the ocean fog and roared overhead, circled, and came back. She saw the helicopter swing back over the water, near the fishing boats, then ease sideways to the rickety wooden dock and back toward the beach. It was looking for a place to land. It was a big-bellied Sikorsky with a blue stripe on the side, with the words InGen Construction. That was the name of the construction company building a new resort on one of the offshore islands. The resort was said to be spectacular and very complicated. Many of the local people were employed in the construction, which had been going on for more than 2 years. Bobby could imagine it. One of those huge American resorts with swimming pools and tennis courts, where guests could play and drink their daiquiris without having any contact with the real life of the country. Not quite, Bobby girl. Not quite. Bobby wondered what was so urgent on that island that the helicopter would fly in this weather. Through the windshield, she saw the pilot exhale in relief as the helicopter settled onto the wet sand of the beach. Uniformed men jumped out and flung open the big side door. She heard frantic shouts in Spanish, and Manuel nudged her. They were calling for a doctor. 2 black crewmen carried a limp body toward her, while a white man barked orders. The white man had a yellow slicker. Red hair peered around the edges of his Mets baseball cap. Is there a doctor here? He called to her as she ran up. I'm Dr. Carter, she said. The rain fell in heavy drops, pounding her head and shoulders. The red-haired man frowned at her. She was wearing cut-off jeans and a tank top. She had a stethoscope over her shoulder, the belly already rusted from the salt air. Ed Regis. We've got a very sick man here, doctor. Then you better take him to San Jose, she said. San Jose was the capital, just 20 minutes away by air. We would, but we can't get over the mountains in this weather. You have to treat him here. Bobby trotted alongside the injured man as they carried him to the clinic. He was a kid, no older than 18. Lifting away the blood-soaked shirt, she saw a big slashing rip along his shoulder and another on the leg. What happened to him? Construction accident, Ed shouted. He fell. One of the backhoes ran over him. The kid was pale, shivering, and unconscious. Manuel stood by the bright green door of the clinic, waving his arm. The men brought the body through and set it on the table in the center of the room. Manuel started an intravenous line, and Bobby swung the light over the kid and bent to examine the wounds. Immediately, she could see that it did not look good. The kid would almost certainly die. A big tearing laceration ran from his shoulder down his torso. At the edge of the wound, the flesh was shredded. At the center, the shoulder was dislocated, pale bones exposed. A second slash cut through the heavy muscles of the thigh deep enough to reveal the pulse of the femoral artery below. Her first impression was that his leg had been ripped open. Tell me again about this injury, she said. I didn't see it, Ed said. They say the backhoe dragged him. Because it almost looks as if he was mauled, Bobby Carter said, probing the wound. Like most emergency room physicians, she could remember in detail patients she had seen even years before. She had seen 2 maulings. One was a 2-year-old child who had been attacked by a Rottweiler dog. The other was a drunken circus attendant who had had an encounter with a Bengal tiger. Both injuries were similar. There was a characteristic look to an animal attack. Mauled, Ed said. No, it was a backhoe, believe me. Ed licked his lips as he spoke. He was edgy, acting as if he had done something wrong. Bobby wondered why. If they were using inexperienced local workmen on the resort construction, they must have accidents all the time. Manuel said, "Do you want lavage?" "Yes," she said, "after you block him." She bent lower, probed the wound with her fingertips. If an earth mover had rolled over him, dirt would be forced deep into the wound, but there wasn't any dirt, just a slippery, slimy foam. And the wound had a strange odor, a kind of rotten stench, a smell of death and decay. She had never smelled anything like it before. How long ago did this happen? An hour. Again, she noticed how tense Ed Regis was. He was one of those eager, nervous types, and he didn't look like a construction foreman, more like an executive. He was obviously out of his depth. Bobby Carter turned back to the injuries. Somehow, she didn't think she was seeing mechanical trauma. It just didn't look right. No soil contamination of the wound site and no crush injury component. Mechanical trauma of any sort, an auto injury, a factory accident, almost always had some component of crushing. But here there was none. Instead, the man's skin was shredded, ripped across his shoulder and again across his thigh. It really did look like a maul. On the other hand, most of the body was unmarked, which was unusual for an animal attack. She looked again at the head, the arms, the hands. The hands. She felt a chill when she looked at the kid's hands. There were short, slashing cuts on both palms and bruises on the wrists and forearms. She had worked in Chicago long enough to know what that meant. "All right," she said. "Wait outside." "Why?" Ed said, alarmed. He didn't like that. "Do you want me to help him or not?" she said, and pushed him out the door and closed it on his face. She didn't know what was going on, but she didn't like it. Manuel hesitated. "I continue to wash?" "Yes," she said. She reached for her little Olympus point and shoot. She took several snapshots of the injury, shifting her light for a better view. It really did look like bites, she thought. Then the kid groaned, and she put her camera aside and bent toward him. His lips moved, his tongue thick. "Raptor," he said. "Losaraptor." At those words, Manuel froze, stepped back in horror. "What does it mean?" Bobby said. Manuel shook his head. "I do not know, doctor. Losaraptor. No es español." "No?" It sounded to her like Spanish. "Then please continue to wash him." "No, doctor," he wrinkled his nose. "Bad smell." And he crossed himself. Bobby looked again at the slippery foam streaked across the wound. She touched it, rubbed it between her fingers. It seemed almost like saliva. The injured boy's lips moved. "Raptor," he whispered. In a tone of horror, Manuel said, "It bit him." "What bit him?" "Raptor. What's a raptor?" "It means hoopya." Bobby frowned. The Costa Ricans were not especially superstitious, but she had heard the hoopya mentioned in the village before. They were said to be night ghosts, faceless vampires who kidnapped small children. According to the belief, the hoopya had once lived in the mountains of Costa Rica, but now inhabited the islands offshore. Manuel was backing away, murmuring and crossing himself. "It is not normal, this smell," he said. "It is the hoopya." Bobby was about to order him back to work when the injured youth opened his eyes and sat straight up on the table. Manuel shrieked in terror. The injured boy moaned and twisted his head, looking left and right with wide, staring eyes, and then he explosively vomited blood. He went immediately into convulsions, his body vibrating, and Bobby grabbed for him, but he shuddered off the table onto the concrete floor. He vomited again. There was blood everywhere. Ed opened the door, saying, "What the hell is happening?" And when he saw the blood, he turned away, his hand to his mouth. Bobby was grabbing for a stick to put in the boy's clenched jaws, but even as she did it, she knew it was hopeless. And with a final spastic jerk, he relaxed and lay still. She bent to perform mouth to mouth, but Manuel grabbed her shoulder fiercely, pulling her back. "No," he said. "The hoopya will cross over." "Manuel, for God's sake, no." He stared at her fiercely. "No, you do not understand these things." Bobby looked at the body on the ground and realized that it didn't matter. There was no possibility of resuscitating him. Manuel called for the men, who came back into the room and took the body away. Ed appeared, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand, muttering, "I'm sure you did all you could." And then she watched as the men took the body away, back to the helicopter, and it lifted thunderously up into the sky. "It is better," Manuel said. Manuel. Bobby was thinking about the boy's hands. They had been covered with cuts and bruises in the characteristic pattern of defense wounds. She was quite sure he had not died in a construction accident. He had been attacked, and he had held up his hands against his attacker. "Where is this island they've come from?" she asked. "In the ocean. Perhaps 120 miles offshore." "Pretty far for a resort," she said. Manuel watched the helicopter. "I hope they never come back." Well, she thought, at least she had pictures. But when she turned back to the table, she saw that her camera was gone. The rain finally stopped later that night. Alone in the bedroom behind the clinic, Bobby thumbed through her tattered paperback Spanish dictionary. The boy had said raptor. Raptor, I guess. And despite Manuel's protest, she suspected it was a Spanish word. Sure enough, she found it in her dictionary. It meant ravisher or abductor. That gave her pause. The sense of the word was suspiciously close to the meaning of hoopia. Of course, she did not believe in the superstition, and no ghost had cut those hands. What had the boy been trying to tell her? From the next room, she heard groans. One of the village women was in the first stage of labor, and Elena Morales, the local midwife, was attending her. Bobby went into the clinic room and gestured to Elena to step outside for a moment. "Elena, see, doctor? Do you know what is a raptor?" Elena was gray-haired and 60, a strong woman with a practical, no-nonsense air. In the night, beneath the stars, she frowned and said, "Raptor?" "Yes. You know this word?" "Si," Elena said. "It means a person who comes in the night and takes away a child. A kidnapper?" "Yes. A hoopia?" Her whole manner changed. "Do not say this word, doctor." "Why not?" "Do not speak of hoopia now," Elena said firmly, nodding her head toward the groans of the laboring woman. "It is not wise to say this word now." "But does the raptor bite and cut his victims?" "Bite and cut," Elena said, puzzled. "No, doctor, nothing like this. A raptor is a man who takes a new baby." She seemed irritated by the conversation, impatient to end it. Elena started back toward the clinic. "I will call you when she is ready, doctor. I think 1 hour more, perhaps 2." Bobby looked at the stars and listened to the peaceful lapping of the surf at the shore. In the darkness, she saw the shadows of the fishing boats anchored offshore. The whole scene was quiet, so normal that she felt foolish to be talking of vampires and kidnapped babies. Bobby went back to her room, remembering again that Manuel had insisted it was not a Spanish word. Out of curiosity, she looked in the Little English Dictionary, and to her surprise, she found the word there too. Raptor, noun, derivative of el raptor, plunderer. I don't know what FR stands for in the dictionary. Raptus, bird of prey. And "You paused here" is my bookmark of choice this time around, basically because it's within reach and not being used. Sorry for my poor Spanish accent. It was hard for me not to say raptor when I saw it every time, so I was saying it very poorly. Yeah, that's not what I meant to do. Okay, what do you think so far? It's similar to the movie, kind of. You at least get to see the doctor that took care of the person that was attacked. My tea is super lukewarm. Dom, you're just saying blue to be contrary. I know that's a joke about the sun, which has now gone behind clouds, so you can sort of see me again. Now it's just the natural lighting making me almost translucent. Hello, Cliff. Thank you for your comment. It doesn't bother me like it bothers Selena. I'm just saying. Moist, thickwood. And hello on Rumble as well. One thing I want to do. I need to fix my stream elements because it is not doing what it should be doing. Whatever. All right. What is the damn kids for? It's in the Northwest and it's just rain currently. The expectation at least, but it is Colorado, so it'll probably, if not be just rain, possibly sleet. See, and I wouldn't know that. I was entirely too young. Dom. Well done on the correct 2. However, it's a Yankees cap, not Anne. Velociraptor. Yeah, it does kind of sound like Velociraptor, huh? Velociraptor. Oh, we have a contradiction. See, again, I'm not old enough to know. Sam is, though, so I'm glad he's here. Chupacabra. Tonka trucks and dinosaurs is what all the boys were playing with. Chupa. Simmons Chupa thingy. What about that? I don't even. For real, no cap. Thank you. Thank you, Cliff. That's wonderful. I appreciate your thorough explanation of the dictionary abbreviations. Yes, I have been to Costa Rica before. It's freaking beautiful. It's amazing. And when it, like, I wouldn't say it's hot necessarily. I mean, yeah, it's hot there. But when it rains there, it just cools you down. It's like a lukewarm rain. It's not like an East Coast rain or even the freaking Pacific. It's not cold. It's like a nice shower. It's very weird to me for her to not know what a raptor was. But I do think I'm looking at it from a lens of, I mean, when I was a kid, I knew all about dinosaurs. Like we learned about that shit in school. So, which was in the 90s. So that's very weird. Yes. Extra late, but at work. That's okay, Kaylee. Welcome. Hopefully work isn't torturing you too much. Kel said that when you mentioned what year, said that when you mentioned what year you were born. Wait. You were there at the beginning, Kel? Were you there with Sam or are you like his dad? I feel like you're probably Static's grandpa, but not. You're probably both young, his father, you, when you had kids. I mean, all 3 of you are pretty ancient. In August is when you were born. Yes, thank you, Dom. You picked up on that. What kind of trouble is Dom causing now? I'm switching tabs between you and Krista. Dom's just always causing general trouble, so. Kel is Socrates. Or Socrates. I guess I could feed you early. I need to warm up my tea anyway. Yeah, come on. You want food. You're catching strays because Sam is old and I like making fun of both of you. So you should know this by now. Static. 80s and early 90s. Kids knew 3 things: dinosaurs, 85 bears, and karate is awesome. Yeah, that does pretty much sum that up, doesn't it? I spoiled the kitty enough, but thanks, James. All right, I will be right back. I'm going to warm my tea up and feed this monster next to me, who is not a bastard Sam, just a monster. Be right back. Enjoy the visual. All right. Did y'all play nice? Crichton popularized short films of dinosaur names: raptor, T-Rex, Compy, etc. Ugh, I just said etc. What's wrong with me? Etc. Prior to him, we just said the whole name. Noted. You hush, Sam. Yeah, there's no enhancing it. I mean, I guess you could enhance it. Are you sure, Static? I feel like you probably are old enough for the book. When was it? I'm going to check your work. First published. Nope. Hmm. 1991. You're old enough. Ooh. Popularity outside of academic circles wasn't. Okay, y'all can fight this out. I am gonna continue on with the story because I'm excited to dig in. Still old, Static. Okay, back to the thing. So non-traditional, like I mentioned, we're starting with the first iteration, and then it kind of just doesn't have chapters. It'll stop and there'll be a new title, where I might stop to chit chat with you, but I feel I'm just going to read a little bit of each depending on how long it is, in between. So it's just going to stick to the iterations, and I might even just click the button for each chapter, do a little pause, and then come back. We'll figure it out. Let's go. First iteration. Almost Paradise. Mike Bowman whistled cheerfully as he drove the Land Rover through the Cabo Blanco Biological Reserve on the west coast of Costa Rica. It was a beautiful morning in July, and the road before him was spectacular, hugging the edge of a cliff overlooking the jungle and the blue Pacific. According to the guidebooks, Cabo Blanco was unspoiled wilderness, almost a paradise. Seeing it now made Bowman feel as if the vacation was back on track. Bowman, a 36-year-old real estate developer from Dallas, had come to Costa Rica with his wife and daughter for a 2-week holiday. The trip had actually been his wife's idea. For weeks, Ellen had filled his ear about the wonderful national parks of Costa Rica and how good it would be for Tina to see them. Then, when they arrived, it turned out Ellen had an appointment to see a plastic surgeon in San Jose. That was the first Mike Bowman had heard about the excellent and inexpensive plastic surgery available in Costa Rica and all the luxurious private clinics in San Jose. Of course, they'd had a huge fight. Mike felt she'd lied to him, and she had, and he put his foot down about this plastic surgery business. Anyway, it was ridiculous. Ellen was only 30, and she was a beautiful woman. Hell, she'd been homecoming queen her senior year at Rice, and that was not even 10 years earlier. But Ellen tended to be insecure and worried, and it seemed as if in recent years she had mostly worried about losing her looks. That and everything else. The Land Rover bounced in a pothole, splashing mud. Seated beside him, Ellen said, "Mike, are you sure this is the right road? We haven't seen any other people for hours." "There was another car 15 minutes ago," he reminded her. "Remember the blue one? Going the other way." "Darling, you wanted a deserted beach," he said, "and that's what you're going to get." Ellen shook her head doubtfully. "I hope you're right." "Yeah, Dad, I hope you're right," said Christina from the back seat. She was 8 years old. "Trust me, I'm right." He drove in silence a moment. "It's beautiful, isn't it? Look at that view. It's beautiful." "It's okay," Tina said. Ellen got out a compact and looked at herself in the mirror, pressing under her eyes. She sighed and put the compact away. The road began to descend, and Mike Bowman concentrated on driving. Suddenly, a small black shape flashed across the road, and Tina shrieked, "Look, look!" Then it was gone, into the jungle. "What was it?" Ellen asked. "A monkey?" "Maybe a squirrel monkey," Bowman said. "Can I count it?" Tina said, taking her pencil out. She was keeping a list of all the animals she had seen on her trip as a project for school. "I don't know," said Mike doubtfully. Tina consulted the pictures in the guidebook. "I don't think it was a squirrel monkey," she said. "I think it was just another howler." They had seen several howler monkeys already on their trip. "Hey," she said more brightly, "according to this book, the beaches of Cabo Blanco are frequented by a variety of wildlife, including howler and white-faced monkeys, three-toed sloths, and cotamundis? Mundis? Cotamundis? I don't know what the hell that is. I'm not an animal person, like all animal, whatever. You think we'll see a three-toed sloth, Dad?" "I bet we do." "Really?" "Just look in the mirror." "Very funny, Dad." The road sloped downward through the jungle toward the ocean. Mike Bowman felt like a hero when they finally reached the beach, a 2-mile crescent of white sand, utterly deserted. He parked the Land Rover in the shade of the palm trees that fringed the beach and got out the box lunches. Ellen changed into her bathing suit, saying, "Honestly, I don't know how I'm going to get this weight off." "You look great, hun." Actually, he felt that she was too thin, but he had learned not to mention that. Tina was already running down the beach. "Don't forget you need your sunscreen," Ellen called. "Later," Tina shouted over her shoulder. "I'm going to see if there's a sloth." Ellen Bowman looked around at the beach and the trees. "You think she's all right?" "Honey, there's nobody here for miles," Mike said. "What about snakes?" "Oh, for God's sake," Mike Bowman said. "There's no snakes on a beach." "Well, there might be." "Honey," he said firmly, "snakes are cold-blooded. They're reptiles. They can't control their body temperature. It's 90 degrees on that sand. If a snake came out, it'd be cooked. Believe me, there's no snakes on the beach." He watched his daughter scampering down the beach, a dark spot on the white sand. Let her go. Let her have a good time. He put his arm around his wife's waist. Tina ran until she was exhausted, and then she threw herself on the sand and gleefully rolled to the water's edge. The ocean was warm, and there was hardly any surf at all. She sat for a while, catching her breath, and then she looked back toward her parents in the car to see how far she had come. Her mother waved, beckoning her to return. Tina waved back cheerfully, pretending she didn't understand. Tina didn't want to put sunscreen on, and she didn't want to go back and hear her mother talk about losing weight. She wanted to stay right here and maybe see a sloth. Tina had seen a sloth 2 days earlier at the zoo in San Jose. It looked like a Muppets character, and it seemed harmless. In any case, it couldn't move fast. She could easily outrun it. Now her mother was calling to her, and Tina decided to move out of the sun back from the water to the shade of the palm trees. In this part of the beach, the palm trees overhung a gnarled tangle of mangrove roots, which blocked any attempt to penetrate inland. Tina sat in the sand and kicked the dried mangrove leaves. She noticed many bird tracks in the sand. Costa Rica was famous for its birds. The guidebooks said there were 3 times as many birds in Costa Rica as in all of America and Canada. In the sand, some of the 3-toed bird tracks were small and so faint that they could hardly be seen. Other tracks were large and cut deeper in the sand. Tina was looking idly at the tracks when she heard a chirping, followed by a rustling in the mangrove thicket. Did sloths make a chirping sound? Tina didn't think so, but she wasn't sure. The chirping was probably some ocean bird. She waited quietly, not moving, hearing the rustling again, and finally she saw the source of the sounds. A few yards away, a lizard emerged from the mangrove roots and peered at her. Tina held her breath. A new animal for her list. The lizard stood up on its hind legs, balancing on its thick tail, and stared at her. Standing like that, it was almost a foot tall, dark green with brown stripes along its back. Its tiny front legs ended in little lizard fingers that wiggled in the air. The lizard cocked its head as it looked at her. Tina thought it was cute, sort of like a big salamander. She raised her hand and wiggled her fingers back. The lizard wasn't frightened. It came toward her, walking upright on its hind legs. It was hardly bigger than a chicken, and like a chicken, it bobbed its head as it walked. Tina thought it would make a wonderful pet. X'd it out. She noticed that the lizard left 3-toed tracks that looked exactly like bird tracks. The lizard came closer to Tina. She kept her body still, not wanting to frighten the little animal. She was amazed that it would come so close, but she remembered that this was a national park. All the animals in the park would know that they were protected. This lizard was probably tame. Maybe it even expected her to give it some food. Unfortunately, she didn't have any. Slowly, Tina extended her hand, palm open, to show she didn't have any food. The lizard paused, cocked its head, and chirped. "Sorry," Tina said, "I just don't have anything." And then, without warning, the lizard jumped up onto her outstretched hand. Tina could feel its little toes pinching the skin of her palm, and she felt the surprising weight of the animal's body pressing her arm down. And then the lizard scrambled up her arm toward her face. "I just wish I could see her," Ellen said, squinting in the sunlight. "That's all. Just see her." "I'm sure she's fine," Mike said, picking through the box lunch packed by the hotel. There was unappetizing grilled chicken and some kind of a meat-filled pastry. Not that Ellen would eat any of it. "You don't think she'd leave the beach?" Ellen said. "No, hun, I don't." "I feel so isolated here," Ellen said. "I thought that's what you wanted," Mike Bowman said. "I did. Well then, what's the problem? I just wish I could see her is all." Then, from down the beach, carried by the wind, they heard their daughter's voice. She was screaming. Punta Arenas. "I think she is quite comfortable now," Dr. Cruz said, lowering the plastic flap of the oxygen tent around Tina as she slept. Mike Bowman sat beside the bed, close to his daughter. Mike thought Dr. Cruz was probably pretty capable. He spoke excellent English, the result of training at medical centers in London and Baltimore. Dr. Cruz radiated competence in the Clínica Santa Maria, the modern hospital in Punta Arenas, was spotless and efficient. I'm pretty sure it's putareñas, but there's no tilde. Is that the tilde? No, it's not the tilde. The ñ over the N. But even so, Mike Bowman felt nervous. There was no getting around the fact that his only daughter was desperately ill and they were far from home. When Mike had first reached Tina, she was screaming hysterically. Her whole left arm was bloody, covered with a profusion of small bites, each the size of a thumbprint. And there were flecks of sticky foam on her arm, like a foamy saliva. He carried her back down the beach. Almost immediately, her arm began to redden and swell. Mike would not soon forget the frantic drive back to civilization, the four-wheel drive Land Rover slipping and sliding up the muddy track into the hills, while his daughter screamed in fear and pain, and her arm grew more bloated and red. Long before they reached the park boundaries, the swelling had spread to her neck, and then Tina began to have trouble breathing. "She'll be all right now?" Ellen said, staring through the plastic oxygen tent. "I believe so," Dr. Cruz said. "I have given her another dose of steroids, and her breathing is much easier, and you can see the edema in her arm is greatly reduced." Mike Bowman said, "About those bites. We have no identification yet," the doctor said. "I myself haven't seen bites like that before, but you'll notice they are disappearing. It's already quite difficult to make them out. Fortunately, I've taken photographs for reference, and I have washed her arm to collect some samples of the sticky saliva. One for analysis here, a second to send to the labs in San Jose, and the third we will keep frozen in case it is needed. Do you have the picture she made?" "Yes," Mike Bowman said. He handed the doctor the sketch that Tina had drawn in response to questions from the admitting officials. "This is the animal that bit her?" Dr. Cruz said, looking at the picture. "Yes," Mike Bowman said. "She said it was a green lizard the size of a chicken or a crow." "I don't know of such a lizard," the doctor said. "She has drawn it standing on its hind legs." "That's right," Mike Bowman said. "She said it walked on its hind legs." Dr. Cruz frowned. He stared at the picture a while longer. "I am not an expert. I've asked for Dr. Gutierrez to visit us here. He's a senior researcher at the Reserva Biológica de Carrara, which is across the bay." Biológica. "Perhaps he can identify the animal for us." "Isn't there someone from Cabo Blanco?" Bowman asked. "That's where she was bitten." "Unfortunately not," Dr. Cruz said. "Cabo Blanco has no permanent staff, and no researcher has worked there for some time. You were probably the first people to walk on that beach in several months, but I'm sure you'll find Dr. Gutierrez to be knowledgeable." Dr. Gutierrez turned out to be a bearded man wearing khaki shorts and shirt. The surprise was that he was American. He was introduced to the Bowmans, saying in a soft Southern accent, "Mr. and Mrs. Bowman, how you doing? Nice to meet you." And then explaining that he was a field biologist from Yale who had worked in Costa Rica for the last 5 years. "Well, hi, I let you outside. Why are you back?" "There's food in your dish." Snow wanted to say hi again, guys. Can you tell? Okay, worked at Yale, the last 5 years. Marty Gutierrez examined Tina thoroughly, lifting her arm gently, peering closely at each of the bites with a pen light, then measuring them with a small pocket ruler. After a while, Gutierrez stepped away, nodding to himself as if he had understood something. He then inspected the Polaroids and asked several questions about the saliva, which Cruz told him was still being tested in the lab. Finally, he turned to Mike Bowman and his wife, waiting tensely. "I think Tina's going to be fine. I just want to be clear about a few details," he said, making notes in a precise hand. "Your daughter says she was bitten by a green lizard approximately 1 foot high, which walked upright onto the beach from the mangrove swamp." "That's right, yes. And the lizard made some kind of a vocalization. Tina said it chirped or squeaked. Like a mouse, would you say?" "Yes." "Well then," Dr. Gutierrez said, "I know this lizard." He explained that of the 6,000 species of lizards in the world, no more than a dozen species walked upright. Of those species, only 4 were found in Latin America, and judging by the coloration, the lizard could be only one of the 4. I am sure this lizard was a Basilicus amaratus. a striped basilisk lizard found here in Costa Rica and also in Honduras. Standing on their hind legs, they are sometimes as tall as a foot. Are they poisonous? No, Mrs. Bowman, not at all. Gutierrez explained that the swelling in Tina's arm was an allergic reaction. According to the literature, 14% of people are strongly allergic to reptiles, he said, and your daughter seems to be one of them. She was screaming. She said it was so painful. Probably it was, Gutierrez said. Reptile saliva contains serotonin, which causes tremendous pain. He turned to Cruz. Her blood pressure came down with antihistamines? Yes, Cruz said promptly. Serotonin, Gutierrez said. No question. Still, Ellen Bowman remained uneasy. But why would a lizard bite her in the first place? Lizard bites are very common, Gutierrez said. Animal handlers in zoos get bitten all the time. And just the other day, I heard that a lizard had bitten an infant in her crib in Amaloya, about 60 miles from where you were. So bites do occur. I'm not sure why your daughter had so many bites. What was she doing at the time? Nothing. She said she was sitting pretty still because she didn't want to frighten it away. Sitting pretty still, Gutierrez said, frowning. He shook his head. Well, I don't think we can say exactly what happened. Wild animals are unpredictable. And what about the foamy saliva on her arm? Ellen said. I keep thinking about rabies. No, Dr. Gutierrez said. A reptile can't carry rabies, Mrs. Bowman. Your daughter has suffered an allergic reaction to the bite of a basilisk lizard. Nothing more serious. Mike Bowman then showed Gutierrez the picture that Tina had drawn. Gutierrez nodded. I would accept this as a picture of a basilisk lizard, he said. A few details are wrong, of course. The neck is much too long, and she has drawn the hind legs with only 3 toes instead of 5. The tail is too thick and raised too high, but otherwise this is a perfectly serviceable lizard of the kind we are talking about. But Tina specifically said the neck was long, Ellen insisted, and she said there were 3 toes on the foot. Tina's pretty observant, Mike Bowman said. I'm sure she is, Gutierrez said, smiling. But I still think your daughter was bitten by a common basilisk amaratus and had a severe herpetological reaction. Normal time course with medication is 12 hours. She should be just fine in the morning. In their modern laboratory in the basement of the Clinica Santa Maria, word was received that Dr. Gutierrez had identified the animal that had bitten the American child as a harmless basilisk lizard. Immediately, the analysis of the saliva was halted, even though a preliminary fractionation showed several extremely high molecular weight proteins of unknown biological activity. But the night technician was busy, and he placed the saliva samples on the holding shelf of the refrigerator. The next morning, the day clerk checked the holding shelf against the names of discharged patients. Seeing that Bowman Christina L. was scheduled for discharge that morning, the clerk threw out the saliva samples. At the last moment, he noticed that one sample had the red tag, which meant that it was to be forwarded to the university lab in San Jose. He retrieved the test tube from the wastebasket and sent it on its way. Go on, say thank you to Dr. Cruz, Ellen said, and pushed Tina forward. Thank you, Dr. Cruz, Tina said. I feel much better now. She reached up and shook the doctor's hand. Then she said, You have a different shirt. For a moment, Dr. Cruz looked perplexed. Then he smiled. That's right, Tina. When I work all night at the hospital in the morning, I change my shirt. But not your tie? No, just my shirt. Ellen said, Mike told you she's observant. She certainly is. Dr. Cruz smiled and shook the little girl's hand gravely. Enjoy the rest of your holiday in Costa Rica, Tina. I will. The Bowman family had started to leave when Dr. Cruz said, Oh, Tina, do you remember the lizard that bit you? Uh-huh. You remember its feet? Uh-huh. Did it have any toes? Yes. How many toes did it have? 3, she said. How do you know that? Because I looked, she said. Anyway, all the birds on the beach made marks in the sand with 3 toes, like this. She held up her hand, middle 3 fingers spread wide. And the lizard made those kind of marks in the sand, too. The lizard made marks like a bird? Uh-huh, Tina said. He walked like a bird, too. He jerked his head like this, up and down. She took a few steps, bobbing her head. After the Bowmans had departed, Dr. Cruz decided to report this conversation to Gutierrez at the biological station. I must admit the girl's story is puzzling, Gutierrez said. I've been doing some checking myself. I'm no longer certain she was bitten by a basilisk. Not certain at all. Then what could it be? Well, Gutierrez said, let's not speculate prematurely. By the way, have you heard of any other lizard bites at the hospital? No. Why? Let me know, my friend, if you do. The beach. Marty Gutierrez sat on the beach and watched the afternoon sun fall lower in the sky until it sparkled harshly on the water of the bay, and its rays reached beneath the palm trees to where he sat among the mangroves on the beach of Cabo Blanco. It's a very long sentence. My apologies. As best he could determine, he was sitting near the spot where the American girl had been 2 days before. Although it was true enough, as he had told the Bowmans, that lizard bites were common, Gutierrez had never heard of a basilisk lizard biting anyone, and he had certainly never heard of anyone being hospitalized for a lizard bite. Then, too, the bite radius on Tina's arm appeared slightly too large for a basilisk. When he got back to the Carrara station, he had checked the small research library there, but found no reference to basilisk lizard bites. Next, he checked International Biosciences Services, a computer database in America, but he found no references to basilisk bites or hospitalization for lizard bites. He then called the medical officer in Amaloya, who confirmed that a 9-day-old infant sleeping in its crib had been bitten on the foot by an animal the grandmother, the only person actually to see it, claimed was a lizard. Subsequently, the foot had become swollen and the infant had nearly died. The grandmother described the lizard as green with brown stripes. It had bitten the child several times before the woman frightened it away. Strange, Gutierrez said. No, like all the others, the medical officer replied, adding that he had heard of other biting incidents. A child in Vasquez, the next village up the coast, had been bitten while sleeping, and another in Puerto Sotrero. All these incidents had occurred in the last 2 months. All had involved sleeping children and infants. Such a new and distinctive pattern led Gutierrez to suspect the presence of a previously unknown species of lizard. This was particularly likely to happen in Costa Rica. Only 75 miles wide at its narrowest point, the country was smaller than the state of Maine. Yet, within its limited space, Costa Rica had a remarkable diversity of biological habitats. Seacoasts on both the Atlantic and the Pacific, 4 separate mountain ranges, including 12,000-foot peaks and active volcanoes, rainforests, cloud forests, temperate zones, swampy marshes, and arid deserts. Such ecological diversity sustained an astonishing diversity of plant and animal life. Costa Rica had 3 times as many species of birds as all of North America, more than 1,000 species of orchids, more than 5,000 species of insects. New species were being discovered all the time at a pace that had increased in recent years for a sad reason. Costa Rica was becoming deforested, and as jungle species lost their habitats, they moved to other areas and sometimes changed behavior as well. So a new species was perfectly possible, but along with the excitement of a new species was the worrisome possibility of new diseases. Lizards carried viral diseases, including several that could be transmitted to man. The most serious was central saurian encephalitis, or CSE, which caused a form of sleeping sickness in human beings and horses. Gutierrez felt it was important to find this new lizard, if only to test it for disease. Sitting on the beach, he watched the sun drop lower and sighed. Perhaps Tina Bowman had seen a new animal, and perhaps not. Certainly Gutierrez had not. Earlier that morning, he had taken the air pistol, loaded the clip with ligamine darts, and set out for the beach with high hopes, but the day was wasted. Soon he would have to begin the drive back up the hill from the beach. He did not want to drive that road in darkness. Gutierrez got to his feet and started back up the beach. Farther along, he saw the dark shape of a howler monkey ambling along the edge of the mangrove swamp. Gutierrez moved away, stepped out toward the water. If there was one howler, there would probably be others in the trees overhead, and howlers tended to urinate on intruders. But this particular howler monkey seemed to be alone and walking slowly and pausing frequently to sit on its haunches. The monkey had something in its mouth. As Gutierrez came closer, he saw it was eating a lizard. The tail and the hind legs drooped from the monkey's jaws. Even from a distance, Gutierrez could see the brown stripes against the green. Gutierrez dropped to the ground and aimed the pistol. The howler monkey, accustomed to living in a protected reserve, stared curiously. He did not run away, even when the first dart whined harmlessly past him. When the second dart struck deep in the thigh, the howler shrieked in anger and surprise, dropping the remains of its meal as it fled into the jungle. Gutierrez got to his feet and walked forward. He wasn't worried about the monkey. The tranquilizer dose was too small to give it anything but a few minutes of dizziness. Already, he was thinking of what to do with his new find. Gutierrez himself would write the preliminary report, but the remains would have to be sent back to the United States for final positive identification, of course. To whom should he send it? The acknowledged expert was Edward H. Simpson, emeritus professor of zoology at Columbia University in New York. An elegant older man with swept-back white hair, Simpson was the world's leading authority on lizard taxonomy. Probably, Marty thought, he would send his lizard to Dr. Simpson. Gonna take a moment to pause and discuss. And drink my tea. Let's see. So what kind of dinosaur is it? And Kratos can't answer because he knows. Possibly. Let's see. Speaking of bird-like creatures, I guess. 100% rye. Watering your yard and watching a crow chase off all the other birds. Nice. Seems like an interesting evening, Clinton. I appreciate it. Wow. Thanks, Obama, indeed. How rude. Okay, Snow, I'm going to move. You're going to be upset with me, but you'll be okay. There we go. A little bit more light. You weren't born yet? Seriously, Dom? You're such a youngin'. Gal, do you know that Tommy has been cheating on Steph by doing emojis to other ladies? How dare he? I can't believe it. Oh, look. Speak of the devil. Hi, Tommy. "100 howler monkeys trying to cancel Superman." Oh, hey, Prof. What's up? Never trust the dinosaurs. I don't know if I should trust that recommendation because Sam likes weird movies, so take this with a grain of salt, everybody. So the tilde is on like vowels. What's the little squiggle over ends? Is both the tilde and the N? Are you sure? I'm pretty sure the tilde is just the like angled, like over an E. Or is that just an accent? I'm currently taking my Japanese courses, not my Spanish ones, so... You're saying that it's punta arenas, not arenas? Yes, I can. Hello and welcome, Sleazy, if you're still here. And your average Patriot nerd. How's it going? Beach segment is very similar to the opening scene from the third movie, if I remember correctly. I haven't seen the third movie in a long time. I probably should do a rewatch. Second movie. But you're correct. Okay. Honestly, I haven't seen the second movie in a long time either. So that's good to know. Looking for easy prey in a nest. Ligma darts. Not quite. Thanks, Kratos. Amazing how much good writing can make a novel and want people to read more, unlike a certain... Yeah, we don't speak of the haunted one. Compsognathus? I don't know how to... I don't know. Yeah, that's not being pronounced by me. Procompsognathus? Nathoris? Thathoith? I love how it details the human incompetence that almost led to the entire event going unnoticed, except for that one little red tag. Yeah. I guess that's why they make it red. Catches the eye. The squiggle is the tilde. Diacritical mark. Well, whatever. Y'all know what I mean. I swear it's puntareñas. I'll be fine. Compsognathus. I'm not trusting you, Kel. Compsognathus. I've never heard of that dinosaur. I'm too normie for this shit. Hey, Furbrat is stealing the stream again. Yeah, he tends to do that. You can only see his... Well, I guess you can see his ear. Here he is. Oh, I'm sorry. I am sorry. Go back to sleep. He's so mad at me. Go back to sleep, dude. Temperamental little shit. Yeah, I'm pretty much never gonna trust what you say. I don't want to see a Diabetosaurus because I'm pretty sure that's Dermy. Well, okay, sorry. Procompsognathus. I'll try to refrain, but he likes to pretend to be mad. He never gets mad. Unless he's playing with the other cat. I mean, Wankosaurus can probably apply for Dermy. You're correct. I wonder if that little girl learned her lesson to maybe have a bit more of a healthy fear of unknown animals. I feel like little boys wouldn't. Little girls probably would learn their lesson quicker. All right, so I think what I'm going to do is read like 2 to 3 chapters before I do my breaks and such, depending on the length of the chapters. Almost done with the first iteration. So let's carry on. New York. Dr. Richard Stone, head of the Tropical Diseases Laboratory of Columbia University Medical Center, often remarked that the name conjured up a grander place than it actually was. In the early 20th century, when the laboratory occupied the entire 4th floor of the Biomedical Research Building, crews of technicians worked to eliminate the scourges of yellow fever, malaria, and cholera. But medical successes and research laboratories in Nairobi and Sao Paulo had left the TDL a much less important place than it once was. Tropical Diseases Laboratory, not too... Oh, wait. Never mind. I was being dyslexic. Now, a fraction of its former size, it employed only 2 full-time technicians, and they were primarily concerned with diagnosing illnesses of New Yorkers who had traveled abroad. The lab's comfortable routine was unprepared for what it received that morning. Oh, very nice, the technician in the tropical diseases laboratory said as she read the customs label. Partially masticated fragment of unidentified Costa Rican lizard. She wrinkled her nose. This one's all yours, Dr. Stone. Richard Stone crossed the lab to inspect the new arrival. Is this the material from Ed Simpson's lab? Yes, she said, but I don't know why they'd send a lizard to us. His secretary called, Stone said. Simpson's on a field trip in Borneo for the summer, and because there's a question of communicable disease with this lizard, she asked our lab to take a look at it. Let's see what we've got. The white plastic cylinder was the size of a half-gallon milk container. It had locking metal latches and a screw top. It was labeled International Biological Specimen Container and plastered with stickers and warnings in 4 languages. The warnings were intended to keep the cylinder from being opened by suspicious customs officials. Apparently, the warnings had worked. As Richard Stone swung the big light over, he could see the seals were still intact. Stone turned on the air handlers and pulled on plastic gloves and a face mask. After all, the lab had recently identified specimens contaminated with Venezuelan equine fever, Japanese bee encephalitis, Kiasanur forest virus, Langot virus, and Mayaro. Then he unscrewed the top. There was the hiss of escaping gas, and white smoke boiled out. The cylinder turned frosty cold. Inside, he found a plastic Ziploc sandwich bag containing something green. Stone spread a surgical drape on the table and shook out the contents of the bag. A piece of frozen flesh struck the table with a dull thud. Huh, the technician said. Looks eaten. Yes, it does, Stone said. What do they want with us? The technician consulted the enclosed documents. Lizard is biting local children. They have a question about identification of the species and a concern about diseases transmitted from the bite. She produced a child's picture of a lizard signed Tina at the top. One of the kids drew a picture of the lizard. Stone glanced at the picture. Obviously, we can't verify the species, Stone said, but we can check diseases easily enough if we can get any blood out of this fragment. What are they calling this animal? Basilicus amaratus, with 3-toed genetic anomaly, she said, reading. Okay, Stone said, let's get started. While you're waiting for it to thaw, do an X-ray and take Polaroids for the record. Once we have blood, start running antibody sets until we get some matches. Let me know if there's a problem. Before lunchtime, the lab had its answer. The lizard blood showed no significant reactivity to any viral or bacterial antigen. They had run toxicity profiles as well, and they had found only one positive match. The blood was mildly reactive to the venom of the Indian king cobra. But such cross-reactivity was common among reptile species, and Dr. Stone did not think it noteworthy to include in the facts his technician sent to Dr. Martin Gutierrez that same evening. There was never any question about identifying the lizard. That would await the return of Dr. Simpson. He was not due back for several weeks, and his secretary asked if the TDL would please store the lizard fragment in the meantime. Dr. Stone put it back in the Ziploc bag and stuck it in the freezer. Martin Gutierrez read the facts from the Columbia Medical Center / Tropical Diseases Laboratory. It was brief. Subject, Basilicus amaratus, with genetic anomaly. Forwarded from Dr. Simpson's office. Materials, posterior segment, partially eaten animal. Procedures performed, X-ray, microscopic, immunological RTX for viral, parasitic, bacterial disease. Findings. No histologic or immunologic evidence for any communicable disease in man in this Basilicus amaratus sample. Signed, Richard Stone, MD, Director. Gutierrez made 2 assumptions based on the memo. First, that his identification of the lizard as a basilisk had been confirmed by scientists at Columbia University. And second, that the absence of communicable disease meant the recent episodes of sporadic lizard bites implied no serious health hazards for Costa Rica. On the contrary, he felt his original views were correct. that a lizard species had been driven from the forest into a new habitat and was coming into contact with village people. Gutierrez was certain that in a few more weeks the lizards would settle down and the biting episodes would end. The tropical rain fell in great drenching sheets, hammering the corrugated roof of the clinic in Bahia Anasco. It was nearly midnight. Power had been lost in the storm, and the midwife, Elena Morales, was working by flashlight when she heard a squeaking, chirping sound. Thinking that it was a rat, she quickly put a compress on the forehead of the mother and went into the next room to check on the newborn baby. As her hand touched the doorknob, she heard the chirping again, and she relaxed. Evidently, it was just a bird flying in the window to get out of the rain. Costa Ricans said that when a bird came to visit a newborn child, it brought good luck. Bad idea. Elena opened the door. The infant lay in a wicker bassinet, swaddled in a light blanket, only its face exposed. Around the rim of the bassinet, 3 dark green lizards crouched like gargoyles. When they saw Elena, they cocked their heads and stared curiously at her, but did not flee. In the light of her flashlight, Elena saw the blood dripping from their snouts. Softly chirping, one lizard bent down and, with a quick shake of its head, tore a ragged chunk of flesh from the baby. Elena rushed forward, screaming, and the lizards fled into the darkness. But long before she reached the bassinet, she could see what had happened to the infant's face, and she knew the child must be dead. The lizards scattered into the rainy night, chirping and squealing, leaving behind only bloody 3-toed tracks like birds. Seriously? Are you done? The shape of the data. Later, when she was calmer, Elena Morales decided not to report the lizard attack. Despite the horror she had seen, she began to worry that she might be criticized for leaving the baby unguarded. So she told the mother that the baby had asphyxiated, and she reported the death on the form she sent to San Jose as SIDS, Sudden Infant Death Syndrome. This was a syndrome of unexplained death among very young children. It was unremarkable, and her report went unchallenged. The university lab in San Jose that analyzed the saliva sample from Tina Bowman's arm made several remarkable discoveries. There was, as expected, a great deal of serotonin, but among the salivary proteins was a real monster, molecular mass of 1,980,000, one of the largest proteins known. Biological activity was still under study, but it seemed to be a neurotoxic poison related to cobra venom, although more primitive in structure. The lab also detected trace quantities of the gamma-amino methionine. I don't know how to say this. Methionine hydrolase. Because this enzyme was a marker for genetic engineering and not found in wild animals, technicians assumed it was a lab contaminant and did not report it when they called Dr. Cruz, the referring physician in Punta Arenas. The lizard fragment rested in the freezer at Columbia University, awaiting the return of Dr. Simpson, who was not expected for at least a month. And so things might have remained had not a technician named Alice Levin walked into the tropical diseases laboratory, seen Tina Bowman's picture, and said, "Oh, whose kid drew the dinosaur?" "What?" Richard Stone said, turning slowly toward her. "The dinosaur. Isn't that what it is? My kid draws them all the time." "This is a lizard," Stone said, "from Costa Rica. Some girl down there drew a picture of it." "No," Alice Levin said, shaking her head. "Look at it. It's very clear. Big head, long neck, stands on its hind legs, thick tail. It's a dinosaur." "It can't be. It was only a foot tall." "So? There were little dinosaurs back then," Alice said. "Believe me, I know. I have 2 boys. I'm an expert. The smallest dinosaurs were under a foot." "It's not my fault you put your tail behind me, dude." Tenosaurus or something. I don't know. Those names are impossible. You'll never learn those names if you're over the age of 10. "You don't understand," Richard Stone said. "This is the picture of a contemporary animal. They sent us a fragment of the animal. It's in the freezer now." Stone went and got it and shook it out of the baggie. Seriously. Alice Levin looked at the frozen piece of leg and tail and shrugged. She didn't touch it. "I don't know," she said, "but that looks like a dinosaur to me." Stone shook his head. "Impossible." "Why?" Alice Alice Levin said. It could be a leftover or a remnant or whatever they call them. Stone continued to shake his head. Alice was uninformed. She was just a technician who worked in the bacteriology lab down the hall, and she had an active imagination. Stone remembered the time when she thought she was being followed by one of the surgical orderlies. You know, Alice Levin said, if this is a dinosaur, Richard, it could be a big deal. It's not a dinosaur. Has anybody checked it? No, Stone said. Well, take it to the Museum of Natural History or something. Alice Levin said, you really should. I'd be embarrassed. You want me to do it for you, she said. No, Richard said, I don't. You're not going to do anything? Nothing at all. He put the baggie back in the freezer and slammed the door. It's not a dinosaur. It's a lizard. And whatever it is, it can wait until Dr. Simpson gets back from Borneo to identify it. That's final, Alice. This lizard's not going anywhere. Interesting. There was a quote that I missed, maybe. Okay, so should have read this before I started. I was not paying attention, but with the first iteration, at the earliest drawings of the fractal curve, few clues to the underlying mathematical structure will be seen. Ian Malcolm. And then I also forgot to show you the photo. That's the first iteration. And now we move on to the second iteration. With subsequent drawings of the fractal curve, sudden changes may appear. The shore of the inland sea. Okay. Alan Grant crouched down. Dr. Grant. His nose inches from the ground. The temperature was over 100 degrees. His knees ached, despite the rug layers pads he wore. His lungs burned from the harsh alkaline dust. Sweat dripped off his forehead onto the ground, but Grant was oblivious to the discomfort. His entire attention was focused on the 6-inch square of earth in front of him. Working patiently with a dental pick and an artist's camel brush, he exposed the tiny L-shaped fragment of jawbone. It was only an inch long and no thicker than his little finger. The teeth were a row of small points and had the characteristic medial angling. Bits of bone flaked away as he dug. Grant paused for a moment to paint the bone with rubber cement before continuing to expose it. There was no question that this was the jawbone from an infant carnivorous dinosaur. Its owner had died 79 million years ago, at the age of about 2 months. With any luck, Grant might find the rest of the skeleton as well. If so, it would be the first complete skeleton of a baby carnivore. Hey, Alan! Alan Grant looked up, blinking in the sunlight. He pulled down his sunglasses and wiped his forehead from the back of his arm. He was crouched on an eroded hillside in the Badlands, outside Snakewater, Montana. Beneath the great blue bowl of sky, blunted hills, exposed outcroppings of crumbling limestone, stretched for miles in every direction. There was not a tree or a bush, nothing but barren rock, hot sun, and whining wind. See, that's eastern Montana. It's the place that no one really cares about and can go to South and North Dakota. They wouldn't notice. And clearly, I'm from western Montana, everybody. Visitors found the Badlands depressingly bleak, but when Grant looked at this landscape, he saw something else entirely. This barren land was what remained of another, very different world, which had vanished 80 million years ago. In his mind's eye, Grant saw himself back in the warm, swampy bayou that formed the shoreline of a great inland sea. This inland sea was 1,000 miles wide, extending all the way from the newly upthrust Rocky Mountains to the sharp, craggy peaks of the Appalachians. All of the American West was underwater. At that time, there were thin clouds in the sky overhead, darkened by the smoke of nearby volcanoes. The atmosphere was denser, richer in carbon dioxide. Oops, lost my spot. Plants grew rapidly along the shoreline. There were no fish in these waters, but there were clams and snails. Pterosaurs, yep, swooped down to scoop algae from the surface. A few carnivorous dinosaurs prowled the swampy shores of the lake, moving among the palm trees. And offshore was a small island, about 2 acres in size. Ringed with dense vegetation, this island formed a protected sanctuary where herds of herbivores, duck-billed dinosaurs, laid their eggs in communal nests and raised their squeaking young. Over the millions of years that followed, the pale green alkaline lake grew shallower and finally vanished. The exposed land buckled and cracked under the heat, and the offshore island with its dinosaur eggs became the eroded hillside in northern Montana, which Alan Grant was now excavating. Hey, Alan! He stood, a barrel-chested, bearded man of 40. He heard the chugging of the portable generator and the distant clatter of the jackhammer cutting into the dense rock on the next hill. He saw the kids working around the jackhammer, moving away the big pieces of rock after checking them for fossils. At the foot of the hill, he saw the six teepees of his camp, the flapping mess tent, and the trailer that served as their field laboratory. And he saw Ellie waving to him from the shadow of the field laboratory. "Visitors," she called, and pointed to the east. Grant saw the cloud of dust and the blue Ford sedan bouncing over the rutted road toward them. He glanced at his watch. Right on time. On the other hill, the kids looked up with interest. They didn't get many visitors in Snakewater, and there had been a lot of speculation about what a lawyer from the Environmental Protection Agency would want to see Alan Grant about. But Grant knew that paleontology, the study of extinct life, had in recent years taken on an unexpected relevance to the modern world. The modern world was changing fast, and the urgent questions about the weather, deforestation, global warming, or the ozone layer often seemed answerable, at least in part, with information from the past. Information that paleontologists could provide. He had been called as an expert witness twice in the past few years. Grant started down the hill to meet the car. The poll is 50-50 apparently. I'm going to end that now. Thank you for the reminder. Your average Patriot nerd. It was to see if I would get taken down because of reading a non-public domain book. The visitor coughed in the white dust as he slammed the car door. "Bob Morris, EPA," he said, extending his hand. "I'm with the San Francisco office." Grant introduced himself and said, "You look hot. Want a beer?" "Jesus, yeah." Morris was in his late 20s, wearing a tie and pants from a business suit. He carried a briefcase. His wingtip shoes crunched on the rocks as they walked toward the trailer. "When I first came over the hill, I thought this was an Indian reservation," Morris said, pointing to the teepees. "No," Grant said, "just the best way to live out here." Grant explained that in 1978, the first year of the excavations, they had come out in North Slope octahedral tents, the most advanced available. But the tents always blew over in the wind. They tried other kinds of tents with the same result. Finally, they started putting up teepees, which were larger inside, more comfortable, and more stable in wind. "These are Blackfoot teepees built around 4 poles," Grant said. "Sioux teepees are built around 3. But this used to be Blackfoot territory, so we thought..." Morris said. "Very fitting." He squinted at the desolate landscape and shook his head. "How long you been out here?" "About 60 cases, Grant said. When Morris looked surprised, he explained, "We measure time in beer. We start in June with 100 cases. We've gone through about 60 so far." 63, to be exact, Ellie Sattler said as they reached the trailer. Grant was amused to see Morris gaping at her. Ellie was wearing cut-off jeans and a work shirt tied at her midriff. She was 24 and darkly tanned. Her blonde hair was pulled back. "Ellie keeps us going," Grant said, introducing her. "She's very good at what she does." "What does she do?" Morris asked. "Paleobotany," Ellie said. "And I also do the standard field preps." She opened the door and they went inside. The air conditioning in the trailer only brought the temperature down to 85 degrees, but it seemed cool after the midday heat. The trailer had a series of long wooded tables with tiny bone specimens neatly laid out, tagged, and labeled. Farther along were ceramic dishes and crocks. There was a strong odor of vinegar. Morris glanced at the bones. "I thought dinosaurs were big," he said. I thought dinosaurs were big, he said. They were, Ellie said, but everything you see here comes from babies. Snake water was important primarily because of the number of dinosaur nesting sites here. Until we started this work, there were hardly any infant dinosaurs known. Only one nest had ever been found, in the Gobi Desert. We've discovered a dozen different hadrosaur nests, complete with eggs and bones of infants. While Grant went to the refrigerator, she showed Morris the acetic acid baths, which were used to dissolve away the limestone from the delicate bones. They look like chicken bones, Morris said, peering into the ceramic dishes. Yes, she said. They're very bird-like. And what about those? Morris said, pointing through the trailer window to piles of large bones outside, wrapped in heavy plastic. Rejects, Ellie said. Bones too fragmentary when we took them out of the ground. In the old days, we'd just discard them, but nowadays we send them for genetic testing. Genetic testing, Morris said. Here you go, Grant said, thrusting a beer into his hand. He gave another to Ellie. She chugged hers, throwing her long neck back. Morris stared. We're pretty informal here, Grant said. Want to step into my office? Sure, Morris said. Grant led them to the end of the trailer where there was a torn couch, a sagging chair, and a battered end table. Grant dropped onto the couch, which creaked and exhaled a cloud of chalky dust. He leaned back, thumped his boots up on the end table, and gestured for Morris to sit in the chair. Make yourself comfortable. Grant was a professor of paleontology at the University of Denver and one of the foremost researchers in his field, but he had never been comfortable with social niceties. He saw himself as an outdoor man, and he knew that all the important work in paleontology was done outdoors, with your hands. Grant had little patience for the academics, for the museum curators, for what he called teacup dinosaur hunters, and he took some pains to distance himself in dress and behavior from the teacup dinosaur hunters, even delivering his lectures in jeans and sneakers. I like him. Grant watched as Morris primly brushed off the seat of the chair before he sat down. Morris opened his briefcase, rummaged through his papers, and glanced back at Ellie, who was lifting bones with tweezers from the acid bath at the other end of the trailer, paying no attention to them. You're probably wondering why I'm here. Grant nodded. It's a long way to come, Mr. Morris. Well, Morris said, to get right to the point, the EPA is concerned about the activities of the Hammond Foundation. You receive some funding from them. $30,000 a year, Grant said, nodding. For the last 5 years. What do you know about the foundation? Morris said. Grant shrugged. The Hammond Foundation is a respected source of academic grants. They fund research all over the world, including several dinosaur researchers. I know they support Bob Carey out of the Tyrrell in Alberta and John Weller in Alaska, probably more. Do you know why the Hammond Foundation supports so much dinosaur research? Morris asked. Of course. It's because old John Hammond is a dinosaur nut. You've met Hammond? Grant shrugged, once or twice. He comes here for brief visits. He's quite elderly, and eccentric, the way rich people sometimes are, but always very enthusiastic. Why? Well, Morris said, the Hammond Foundation is actually a rather mysterious organization. He pulled out a Xeroxed world map marked with red dots and passed it to Grant. These are the digs the Foundation financed last year. Notice anything odd about them? Montana, Alaska, Canada, Sweden. They're all sites in the north. There's nothing below the 45th parallel. Morris pulled out more maps. It's the same year after year. Dinosaur projects to the south in Utah or Colorado or Mexico never get funded. The Hammond Foundation only supports cold weather digs. We'd like to know why. Grant shuffled through the maps quickly. If it was true that the Foundation only supported cold weather digs, then it was strange behavior, because some of the best dinosaur researchers were working in hot climates and there are other puzzles, Morris said. For example, what is the relationship of dinosaurs to amber? Amber? Yes, it's the hard yellow resin of dried tree sap. I know what it is, Grant said, but why are you asking? Because, Morris said, over the last 5 years, Hammond has purchased enormous quantities of amber in America, Europe, and Asia, including many pieces of museum-quality jewelry. The Foundation has spent $17 million on amber. They now possess the largest privately held stock of this material in the world. I don't get it, Grant said. Neither does anybody else, Morris said. As far as we can tell, it doesn't make any sense at all. Amber is easily synthesized. It has no commercial or defense value. There's no reason to stockpile it. But Hammond has done just that over many years. Amber, Grant said, shaking his head. And what about his island in Costa Rica? Morris continued. 10 years ago, the Hammond Foundation released an island from the government of Costa Rica, supposedly to set up a biological preserve. I don't know anything about that, Grant said, frowning. I haven't been able to find out much, Morris said. The island is 100 miles off the west coast. It's very rugged, and it's in an area of ocean where the combinations of wind and current make it almost perpetually covered in fog. They used to call it Cloud Island. Isla Nublar. Apparently, the Costa Ricans were amazed that anybody would want it. Isla Nublar. God, what's wrong with me? Morris searched in his briefcase. The reason I mention it, he said, is that according to the records, you were paid a consultant's fee in connection with this island. I was, Grant said. Morris passed a sheet of paper to Grant. It was the Xerox of a check issued in March 1984 from InGen Inc., Fairlawn Road, Palo Alto, California. Made out to Alan Grant in the amount of $12,000. At the lower corner, the check was marked Consultant Services / Costa Rica Juvenile Hyperspace. Oh, sure, Grant said. I remember that. It was weird as hell, but I remember it. And it didn't have anything to do with an island. Alan Grant had found the first clutch of dinosaur eggs in Montana in 1979, and many more in the next 2 years, but he hadn't gotten around to publishing his findings until 1983. His paper, with its reports of a herd of 10,000 duck-billed dinosaurs living along the shore of a vast inland sea, building communal nests of eggs in the mud, raising their infant dinosaurs in the herd, made Grant a celebrity overnight. The notion of maternal instincts in giant dinosaurs, and the drawings of cute babies poking their snouts out of the eggs, had appeal around the world. Grant was besieged with requests for interviews, lectures, books. Characteristically, he turned them all down, wanting only to continue his excavations. But it was during those frantic days of the mid-1980s that he was approached by the InGen Corporation with a request for consulting services. Had you heard of InGen before? Morris asked. No. How did they contact you? Telephone call. It was a man named Gennaro or Janino, something like that. Morris nodded. Donald Gennaro, he said. He's the legal counsel for InGen. Anyway, he wanted to know about eating habits of dinosaurs, and he offered me a fee to draw up a paper for him. Grant drank his beer, set the can on the floor. Gennaro was particularly interested in young dinosaurs, infants and juveniles, what they ate. I guess he thought I would know about that. Did you? Not really, no. I told him that. We had found lots of skeletal material, but we had very little dietary data. But Gennaro said he knew we hadn't published everything, and he wanted whatever we had. And he offered a very large fee, $50,000. Morris took out a tape recorder and set it on the end table. You mind? No, go ahead. So Gennaro telephoned you in 1984. What happened then? Well, Grant said, you see our operation here. 50,000 would support 2 full summers of digging. I told him I'd do what I could. So you agreed to prepare a paper for him? Yes. On the dietary habits of juvenile dinosaurs? Yes. You met Gennaro? No, just on the phone. Did Gennaro say why he wanted this information? Yes, Grant said. He was planning a museum for children, and he wanted to feature baby dinosaurs. He said he was hiring a number of academic consultants and named them. There were paleontologists like me and a mathematician from Texas named Ian Malcolm, a couple of ecologists, a systems analyst. Good group. Morris nodded, making notes. So you accepted the consultancy? Yes, I agreed to send him a summary of our work. What we knew about the habits of the duck-billed hadrosaurs we'd found. What kind of information did you send? Morris asked. Everything. Nesting behavior, territorial ranges, feeding behavior, social behavior, everything. And how did Gennaro respond? He kept calling and calling, sometimes in the middle of the night. Would the dinosaurs eat this? Would they eat that? Should the exhibit include this? I could never understand why he was so worked up. I mean, I think dinosaurs are important too, but not that important. They've been dead 65 million years. You'd think his calls could wait until morning. I see, Morris said. And the $50,000? Grant shook his head. I got tired of Gennaro and called the whole thing off. We settled up for 12,000. That must have been about the middle of 85. Morris made a note. And InGen? Any other contact with them? Not since 1985. And when did the Hammond Foundation begin to fund your research? I'd have to look, Grant said, but it was around then, mid-80s. And you know Hammond is just a rich dinosaur enthusiast? Yes. Morris made a note. Look, Grant said, if the EPA is so concerned about John Hammond and what he's doing, the dinosaur sites in the north, the amber perches, the island in Costa Rica, why don't you just ask him about it? At the moment, we can't, Morris said. Why not? Grant said. Because we don't have any evidence of wrongdoing, Morris said. But personally, I think it's clear John Hammond is evading the law. I was first contacted, Morris explained, by the Office of Technology Transfer. The OTT monitors shipments of American technology which might have military significance. They called to say that InGen had 2 areas of possible illegal technology transfer. First, InGen shipped 3 Cray XMPs to Costa Rica. InGen characterized it as transfer within corporate divisions and said they weren't for resale. But OTT couldn't imagine why the hell somebody'd need that power in Costa Rica. 3 Crays, Grant said. Is that a kind of computer? Morris nodded. Very powerful supercomputers. To put it in perspective, 3 Crays represent more computing power than any other privately held company in America, and InGen sent the machines to Costa Rica. You have to wonder why. I give up. Why? Grant said. Nobody knows, and the hoods are even more worrisome. Morris continued. Hoods are automated gene sequencers, machines that work out the genetic code by themselves. They're so new that they haven't been put on the restricted lists yet. But any genetic engineering lab is likely to have one if it can afford the $500,000 price tag. He flipped through his notes. Well, it seems InGen shipped 24 hood sequencers to their island in Costa Rica. Again, they said it was a transfer within divisions and not an export, Morris said. There wasn't much that OTT could do. They're not officially concerned with use. But InGen was obviously setting up one of the most powerful genetic engineering facilities in the world in an obscure Central American country. A country with no regulations. That kind of thing has happened before. There had already been cases of American bioengineering companies moving to another country so they would not be hampered by regulations and rules. The most flagrant, Morris explained, was the biosyn rabies case. In 1986, Genetic Biosyn Corporation of Cupertino tested a bioengineered rabies vaccine on a farm in Chile. They didn't inform the government of Chile or the farm workers involved. They simply released the vaccine. The vaccine consisted of live rabies virus, genetically modified to be non-virulent. But the virulence hadn't been tested. Biosyn didn't know whether the virus could still cause rabies or not. Even worse, the virus had been modified. Nope. Off the keyboard. Lay down. Nope, lay down. I will treat you like a dog. Stop it. Sorry. Where was I? Ordinarily, you couldn't contract rabies unless you were bitten by an animal. But Biosyn modified the rabies virus to cross the pulmonary alveoli. You could get an infection just inhaling it. Biosyn staffers brought this live rabies virus down to Chile in a carry-on bag on a commercial airline flight. Morris often wondered what would have happened if the capsule had broken open during the flight. Everybody on the plane might have been infected with rabies. It was outrageous. It was irresponsible. It was criminally negligent, but no action was taken against Biosyn. The Chilean farmers who unwittingly risked their lives were ignorant peasants. The government of Chile had an economic crisis to worry about, and the American authorities had no jurisdiction. So, Louis Dodgson, the geneticist responsible for the test, was still working at Biosyn. Biosyn was still as reckless as ever, and other American companies were hurrying to set up facilities in foreign countries that lacked sophistication about genetic research. Countries that perceived genetic engineering to be like any other high-tech development and thus welcomed it to their lands, unaware of the dangers posed. So that's why we began our investigation of InGen, Morris said about 3 weeks ago. And what have you actually found? Grant said. Not much, Morris admitted. When I go back to San Francisco, we'll probably have to close the investigation. And I think I'm about finished here. He started packing up his briefcase. By the way, what does juvenile hyperspace mean? That's just a fancy label for my report, Grant said. Hyperspace is a term for multidimensional space, like three-dimensional tic-tac-toe. If you were to take all the behaviors of an animal, its eating and movement and sleeping, you could plot the animal within the multidimensional space. Some paleontologists refer to the behavior of an animal as occurring in an ecological hyperspace. Juvenile hyperspace would just refer to the behavior of juvenile dinosaurs, if you wanted to be as pretentious as possible. At the far end of the trailer, the phone rang. Ellie answered it. She said, "He's in a meeting right now. Can he call you back?" Morris snapped his briefcase shut and stood. "Thanks for your help and the beer," he said. "No problem," Grant said. Grant walked with Morris down the trailer to the door at the far end. Morris said, "Did Hammond ever ask for any physical materials from your site? Bones or eggs or anything like that?" "No," Grant said. "Dr. Sattler mentioned you do some genetic work here." "Well, not exactly," Grant said. "When we remove fossils that are broken or for some other reason not suitable for museum preservation, we send the bones out to a lab that grinds them up and tries to extract proteins for us. The proteins are then identified and the report is sent back to us." "Which lab is that?" Morris asked. "Medical Biologic Services in Salt Lake." "How'd you choose them?" "Competitive bids." "The lab has nothing to do with InGen?" Morris asked. "Not that I know of," Grant said. They came to the door of the trailer. Grant opened it and felt the rush of hot air from outside. Morris paused to put on his sunglasses. "One last thing," Morris said. "Suppose InGen wasn't really making a museum exhibit. Is there anything else they could have done with the information in the report you gave them?" Grant laughed. "Sure, they could feed a baby hadrosaur." Morris laughed too. A baby hadrosaur. That'd be something to see. How big were they? "About so," Grant said, holding his hands 6 inches apart. "Squirrel size." "And how long before they become full grown?" 3 years, Grant said, give or take. Morris held out his hand. "Well, thanks again for your help." Take it easy driving back," Grant said. He watched for a moment as Morris walked back toward his car and closed the trailer door. Grant said, "What did you think?" Ellie shrugged. "Naive." "You like the part where John Hammond is the evil archvillain?" Grant laughed. "John Hammond's about as sinister as Walt Disney. By the way, who called?" "Oh," Ellie said, "it was a woman named Alice Levin. She works at Columbia Medical Center. You know her?" Grant shook his head. "No." "Well, it was something about identifying some remains. She wants you to call her back right away." You know, you're a bit of a pest. You realize that? Jackass. Maryland is not the best state. I don't know who said that, but I scrolled past it. Yeah, let's say the kitty wants to read the book. Let's go with that. Montana, I'm assuming? Yes. I would say so. You could say that, Legatus. Yay! You remembered my snacks. Thank you. I like that I get double. YouTube and Rumble. Wow, Dom. Yeah, the baby died suddenly. Yes, people do have an annoying habit of dismissing others that they deem as less intelligent. I agree with that. And yeah, exactly. The educated elite know better than you. Calm your tits, Dom. Yes, people care about Montana. Yeah, supposedly there's a predator in the Badlands. We do tours there. I need to take one. It's okay. It was just a silly poll. Badlands at sunset with the orange reds hitting it. Yep. Night, Sam. You've probably already left because I was reading for a while. Bye-bye. Are you sure about that? Because it's Isla de Muerta. I don't think you pronounce the S. What are you doing? Or maybe it's just a very soft S. Isla Nublar. Isla de Muerta? I don't know. God damn it. Thank you, Dom. Cloud Island. Dermy's favorite island. I appreciate that. Thank you, Kratos. Extracting proteins. Yes. I clicked the wrong one. Whatever. Noted, Cliff. Thank you. Yeah, Montana can get hella hot, especially in eastern Montana because there's no like mountains and trees to block out the sun or give you much coverage out there. No, he's being a brat, though, Kel. Thank you very much. Oh, Dom. They haven't done it on stream before, but when I'm just randomly sitting at this desk, they've both like Snow will be sleeping in my lap and Coulson will jump onto the armrest of this chair. It's ridiculous. It's okay, Kratos. It does it to me all the time, too. This recent part was not in the book, right? Yeah, they did not show this in the, or sorry. You mean in the movie, I presume, Dom. And that's how I'm going to answer this. It basically Hammond, yeah, that's what I thought. Came, which I don't know, it's probably going to come later because of all the investigations. So for the entire premise of the first movie, that's my assumption, at least. Not having read it before. I don't know if you're putting X to doubt. Oh, that I clicked the wrong one. Whatever. Let me take a look. Almost done. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break these up into different parts because we still got like 50 pages. So at least I'm going to break this one up into 2 parts. Let's see, we're on page 48. Yeah, this is a good place to stop. I might adjust my thumbnails a little. Maybe not. No, just going to change the titles of the streams. Part 1, everybody. Yeah. Dude, it gets in the hundreds in Montana in the summer, like dead of freaking July and August. Dry heat. It'd be like where you're at now. No, it was X to doubt. He's being a punk. I have yet to see Montana. I really want to go to Glacier National Park. Montana's beautiful, and Glacier especially. I'm from the western side, so if you look at a map, I'm from the face of Montana. The square part is like eastern, obviously. The part that no one cares about and can go to North and South Dakota. Yeah, the Rockies are wonderful there. Everybody just sings its praises here in Colorado. Sure, Vail and Aspen are nice. Montana, significantly better. And also because there's less people piled on top of each other. It's wonderful. I miss it. I don't miss the winter, which is like 9 months out of the year. So, yeah. Yeah, punk. I kind of figured this, so this makes sense. For the purposes of red herrings in the book, y'all should know that not all characters have the same arcs as they do in the movie. Some were merged together and others were just outright changed, which happens. So that'll be good. Because the Rockies do not exist there, and I'm more partial to the Rockies. And because it's just flat, boring land. So Dermy would probably love it there. Fields and desert. Wyoming is not better than Montana. You can just take that shit and leave. Get the F out. No. 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 And no. Glad Sam's not here to argue, so you can team up on me. I'm going to try and fix something really quickly. Ooh, do you guys want to see something cool? Give me a moment. Look at my AI tits. That's not what I wanted. That can go away. Over here. Why aren't you working? Haha. No. I don't know if this is going to do anything. I wouldn't say that Texas is better either. Kratos. I like it. Damn it. Why is it not working? This makes me sad. Boo. Let me also do something different here. There's that. You guys get a little preview of something. Possibly. Just imagine me in the black area. Stop virtual camera. Start. Why do you suck, OBS? I'm trying to figure out OBS, and of course I'm failing. It's really annoying. Hopefully y'all can still hear me at least. Because my browser... Well, how do I fix that, Static? That's stupid. Do I have to, like... That's dumb. Boo. I'm not a boomer. I'm just not technologically savvy like other people. Oh. Oh, okay. Let me see. Let me see if I can do this. Do it live. Yes, I'm sure. Okay. I don't want to leave. See, there's that. You can see me. Okay. Maybe this will work. It's working. Okay, so now I go do the thing over here. Start virtual. Yay! I am so not a furry VTuber. Thank you, Kel. X'd out, motherfucker. At least you could still hear me when I was in the black void. I did it! Hi, everybody. Now let me see what this looks like with... Nope, that's not what I want. Style. Go back to this. So it just cuts off the sides. And then this would cut off that completely. Okay. Not that I need it in StreamYard, obviously. I'm trying to figure things out and be like an adult YouTuber now. Cool. I'm just glad it worked. Now I'm going to go back to my normal status here. Stop that. And do that. And then this. Can you hear me? You can hear me. Okay. Now let's do the setting thing. And we're back to normal. Hi. I do feel like a boomer, but whatever. I mean, I'm not in the suit right now, but sure. Sure. I mean, Kel, if you couldn't see it, maybe get your glasses checked. Everybody else saw me. But anyway, yeah, I'm not letting you troll me either. Let me go back to this and this. And well, that's not working properly. Okay. I don't trust either of you. So there was a thing, whatever it's called, an overlay. Yeah, I see it in the replay. You guys are silly. It's very small. You can still see the blanket, Dom. There's a border around my camera, guys. That's all. I don't know what that means either. I should have made it more clear. But yeah, the border. So like I'm figuring out OBS to try and start doing gaming streams and stuff. So I have a border around the picture of my webcam. Don't put that on me, Ricky Bobby. Oh, I see. Noted. Don't put that in quotations, you jackass. You know it's my freaking fridge. But anyway, Here, let me do it one more time. So if I do this and then just open this here. Start virtual camera. And then, so check out when I go full screen, there's like a green edge bordering the camera. Sorry, I should have been way more clear. I do not communicate well sometimes. But at least I was able to freaking troubleshoot it. So there's steps. Of course, you knew what was happening. You helped me do all this stuff, Punk. Thank you. I know that has a negative connotation on the internet. So I'm not doing I'm not doing this. That's not what's happening. Well, I see it, Kel. I don't know why you're not seeing it. It's not always there on your screen. Interesting. I don't know why that would be. It's there on mine. Let me do a thing. So even on my phone, I'm seeing it. Are you guys on iPhones? Wow, Kratos. It's because Kel is old. Yeah, I see it on mobile too. It's only in a few spots, not the whole border. Oh, so that's just the design of it. So like 2 on the top. Let me take this down. That it's by design. So like 2 green on the side, there's 2 on top, and then let me get the and then 2 bigger ones on the bottom. So if that's what you're talking about, you're seeing it correctly. So it's black and green. So if that is what you were talking about, then we should be all good. Yes, they're tiny lines. Oh, you know what? Static is right. You're just old. So they're not big enough for your eyes to see. And don't quote me on that. That was Static. Blame Static. And now going back to normal me. Oops. Bing, bada boom. Hey, look, it's your favorite blanket, Dom. All right, cool. Well, now that I've played around and figured out troubleshooting stuff for y'all and figuring out how to explain things more properly to be less confusing, thanks for joining me, you guys. This was awesome. This was fun. Depending on the aftermath of the stream, if it stays up, looks like we're probably good to keep doing this on YouTube as well as Rumble. So, yay! Either way, though, follow me on Rumble using the link that's in the chat. If you don't already. and I'm dropping it again just in case. You know, that's the link to the whatever. Just click my channel name. I just realized I was sending the link to the stream, not the channel. Whatever. Still follow me there. Yes, I'm needy. At least Cliff hangs out over there with me. All right, everybody. Back to regularly scheduled programming. So next week I will finish up the second iteration, which should take the whole stream. And I'll chat in between like I normally do. Oh, yeah, you can follow from the stream. Thank you, Static. I'm a dork. You made a comment where? Because I don't see a comment in Rumble. Let me do something. I only see Cliff's comments in Rumble, if that's what you were talking about. Dumb. Yeah, I don't see anything. Let me go back up to... It's Rumble. Yeah, your first comment, even in StreamYard, is just showing YouTube. So it's probably doing what normally happens with Cliff on Ballbusters, where sometimes it just shows for the person who posts the comment, and it doesn't show up in StreamYard, nor does it show up for anyone else, which is weird. So they're censoring stuff, as I hear that they do sometimes. I don't know, though. See? Exactly. This happens to Cliff often because he'll tag us on Twitter with the proof, and then I'll tag him with our proof that it's not showing. It's weird. Anyway, thank you guys for hanging out. I appreciate y'all. You're the best. I hope you like the kind of new stylish stuff for the next chapter and can hear it, and it sounds cool because I like it and I was excited to show you guys. Yeah, but otherwise, everybody have a good night. I appreciate all of you. You are the best.